Mitch called the Korean CEO that tiny dictator in front of our entire executive team. That was a Tuesday. I was halfway through a lukewarm Starbucks when it happened, and I remember the exact moment because the CEO's interpreter froze mid-sentence and just stared. Everyone else laughed. I didn't. I was already calculating how fast I could clean it up before we lost the entire deal. My name's Daniel. I'm 37. I live in Minneapolis, and I was the guy they called when someone screwed up too big for an apology email. My title was Account Integration Specialist, but that was corporate fluff. What I actually did, I kept pissed off international clients from walking away after guys like Mitch opened their mouths. That Korea deal wasn't even the worst. Mitch once called dim sum wet dumpling roulette at a formal dinner in Hong Kong, and he still got promoted. That week, I had been holding the Japan logistics contract, worth $38 million, together with caffeine, spreadsheets, and late-night Zooms across 3 time zones. I had rewritten our cultural protocol guidebook 3 times that quarter. Still, guys like Mitch kept blowing it, and I kept taping it back together. Then Connor showed up. New VP of Sales, transferred in from a busted-up SaaS startup like he was the second coming of Elon Musk. Tight suits, loud confidence, no understanding of international business. First time we met, I was prepping renewal slides. He walked in, looked at my screen for 3 seconds and said, "So, you're the translation guy?" Just like that. Dismissive smirk. Leaning on my desk like we'd be grabbing beers later. I corrected him. Said I handle client integration strategy for East Asia logistics. His reply, "Right. Translation guy. Quick note, before we go further, tell us where you're watching from. City or country, doesn't matter." That was the first crack. Connor didn't ask about my background. Didn't care that I'd lived in Tokyo for 4 years, or that I spoke business-level Japanese and passable Korean. He didn't read the client reports, barely skimmed the cultural briefs I wrote. But suddenly, he was the voice in every sales meeting. I should have seen it coming. Guys like Connor don't learn systems. They replace them. They walk in, break stuff, then pretend it was broken before they got there. He started with a smirk, but he wasn't joking. Connor led that call like he'd been on the account since day 1. He hadn't. He pronounced the client's name wrong twice, talked over the interpreter, and wrapped it with some garbage about market synergies. I was quiet the whole time. Not invited to speak. Hell, I wasn't even on video. Afterward, he turned to me in the hall like we'd just played doubles. "You crushed it, feelings translator." I forced a smile. "They manufacture high-efficiency compressors, not feelings." He laughed like I'd proved his point. Then he walked off. Next call, same thing. He cut me off mid-sentence to clarify a logistics term I'd already explained in the perfect English, reworded it like I was fumbling through a translation textbook. On a call with Osaka, he waved at the camera and said, "He's here for vibes." I should have checked him right there. I didn't, because I thought it was just Connor being loud, temporary. But then I saw the next pitch deck. My analysis, stripped of my name, my graphics, lifted, branded, presented without me. I was credited nowhere. At first, I thought it was a mistake, so I asked Lindsay, the analyst who formatted it. She winced. "Connor said you didn't need to be on this one." 2 days later, I showed up for the usual Monday prep and found my calendar entry missing. Checked with IT. Access restricted. Client decks were being reviewed without me. I ran into Mitch in the elevator. "You upstairs?" I asked. He shrugged. "Realignment meeting, Japan logistics. You didn't hear?" I hadn't. No one told me. But the janitor had seen my name erased from the whiteboard. The worst part? The client noticed. I got a call, direct line, from the COO himself. Spoke slow, careful English. "Why has your tone changed?" he asked. "Why is Daniel not on these calls?" I had no idea what to say. I just promised to check internally and get back to him. That night, I brought it up to Connor, quietly. Just the 2 of us in the break room. He cracked open a LaCroix and said, "Don't worry, big boys are handling it now." Then he slapped me on the back like we were on the same bowling team. I stared at him. "You know that client's been with us since before the reorg. They're not just numbers on a sheet." He leaned against the counter. "You're too close to it, man. You're emotional. They like you, sure, but this is strategy now. Let the hitters take the bat. I wrote the playbook, and now you get to watch it in action." I walked out before I said something that had cost me more than my job. The following week, I logged into our internal dashboard. My access was down to basic read-only. Even my weekly translation briefs, gone. I sent a message to Rachel in HR, asked if I'd been reassigned. She said she'd check. Never heard back. Then came the internal newsletter. Sales team expands Japan initiative. Complete with a photo of Connor and some guy I'd never seen before. I clicked the caption. His name was Chad, new international sales liaison. That's when I knew this wasn't a fluke. It was a play. They weren't just freezing me out. They were replacing me, one piece at a time. So I stopped playing along. I started watching, tracking, because if you're gonna push me out, fine. But I'll make damn sure you trip over what you left behind. They hired Chad the same week my email signature got downgraded from lead to support. Connor introduced him at the Thursday sync like he was announcing a new band member. "This is Chad," he said. He took a class in Japanese once and crushed it. Chad gave a little wave and said, "Konbanwa," or whatever, like that covered it. He looked like the kind of guy who'd high-five a monk, wore Allbirds with a suit, asked if Tokyo had Uber. He started firing off Slack messages right away. "Do you think the Japan team would like this?" Attached was a meme of a sushi roll dancing. Then he translated one of our product spec sheets using Google Translate and sent it directly to the client. I found out when the COO emailed me privately. "Daniel, is everything okay? Why are these communications different from before?" I stared at the message for 10 seconds straight, then replied, "I haven't been looped into renewal planning. May I ask what you've seen so far?" His reply, a screenshot of Chad's translated email. It read like a robot's fever dream. That was the last line for me. I wasn't waiting to get pushed. I started packing my own parachute. First, I bought a cheap laptop, completely separate from my work devices. Then I went back through months of communication, saved every email, every Slack thread, every deck edit with my name stripped. No screenshots, real exports, dates, timestamps, audit trails. I wasn't planning revenge. I was building options. Next, I filed paperwork for an LLC, Eastbridge Integration. Got the name from a note the COO once left on a napkin during a layover meeting. We need a better bridge for East-West communication. I bought the domain, paid for a P.O. box, even printed business cards, just 5, in case I chickened out. I didn't. A week later, I created a fresh LinkedIn profile. No title, no posts. Just the name, company, and a one-line summary, specializing in East Asia logistics communication and integration strategy. Then I waited, watched. Connor and Chad kept tightening their grip on the Japan deal, clueless. Renewal calls stacked up. None included me. I wasn't invited. I wasn't briefed. I found out from a forwarded calendar, invite someone forgot to scrub my name from. The client COO reached out again. This time, the message was blunt. "Daniel, may I ask, are you still involved with our account?" That was it. No emotion, just precision. I stared at that sentence for 5 minutes. Then I took a breath, opened my personal phone, and slid into his DMs on LinkedIn. Nothing formal, no pitch. Just a quiet check-in. Out of curiosity, if I were ever to leave the firm, would there still be interest in working together? I figured I'd get a polite reply in a few days. He responded in 10 minutes. "Daniel, we'd call it a win." I sat back in my chair, didn't smile, didn't breathe, just read those 6 words over and over. That night, I added a private note to my calendar. Exit plan activated. Set it recurring, every week. Next morning, Chad forwarded me a client Q&A and asked, "Can you Japanify this?" I replied, "Not sure what that means. Please clarify." He responded, like, "Make it respectful," or whatever. That one went straight into my documentation folder. I stopped correcting their mistakes. I let Connor mispronounce the COO's name. Let Chad send another meme, a geisha holding a logistics bro sign. They thought I was fading. They had no idea I was fueling up. Every time they cut me out, I took another step forward. By the end of the month, I wasn't wondering if I'd leave. I was deciding how loud it would be when I did. I didn't even get a calendar alert for the renewal prep. When I tried to open the shared folder, I got a red banner. Access restricted. No explanation, no warning, just a door slammed shut. I walked straight to Connor's office. He was leaning back in his chair, feet up, scrolling on his phone like the world couldn't touch him. Did my access change? I asked. He didn't look up. We're streamlining. Chad's taking point. I felt the floor tilt. On the Japan renewal? Yup. He finally met my eyes. Don't worry. We still need you in the room. Someone's got to translate. He said it like he was doing me a favor. Like he was tossing scraps. Renewal day landed cold and gray. Minneapolis rain tapping the windows like a metronome. $38 million on the table. A contract we'd held for years. I showed up early, out of habit, only to find the main deck already loaded on the screen. Not mine. Not even close. Chad stood by the projector wearing a tie so bright it looked like a safety vest. He grinned at me. Hope you're ready, man. This is gonna be epic. I didn't answer. The client filed in quietly. The COO nodded at me, not at Connor. That should have told him everything, but he ignored it. Connor took center stage like a game show host. All right, team, he said, clapping his hands. Let's dive in. Then he gave the floor to Chad. It was a disaster in slow motion. First cultural reference Chad tried to make came out like a trivia card. Wrong era, wrong phrasing, wrong tone. The COO blinked twice and said nothing. 2 more references followed, and each one hit the table like a dropped weight. I felt myself gripping the armrest just to stay grounded. Then Chad clicked to a slide titled Eastern Thought, Pros and Cons. I stared at the screen. What is this? I whispered. Connor shushed me. The slide listed pros like patience and teamwork, and cons like indirect communication and slow approvals, as if centuries of culture were a lagging KPI. I saw the COO's jaw tighten. I knew that look. That was the look people had right before they walked. Connor kept going anyway, oblivious, proud. Then he hit clause 7.3, performance penalties, strict ones. The same clause the client had rejected 2 years earlier, something I had personally negotiated out. The COO held up a hand. Excuse me, he said, voice steady. We were under the impression this clause had been permanently removed, per Daniel's negotiation. My name dropped into the center of the room like a flare. I opened my mouth to answer. Connor cut me off instantly. Daniel's just here to translate. Just here to translate. Like the last decade of my work meant nothing. Like I was a piece of equipment someone had rolled into the room. I looked at him, then at the COO, then at the slide. The whole thing felt like a trap door swinging open, and I was done pretending I couldn't see the drop. I stood up slowly. Connor frowned. Sit down, Daniel. I didn't. Instead, I switched languages. Clean, fluent, the way I only spoke when I wanted zero doubt about what I meant. The entire table went silent. Then I said, calmly, clearly, I no longer represent this company. I offer independent consulting. My rate is 15%. I'm available now. A pen dropped on the other end of the table. Someone inhaled hard. The COO didn't flinch. He just listened, eyes focused, weighing every syllable. Connor spun toward me. What the hell are you doing? He hissed. I didn't answer him. I didn't look at him. I kept my posture straight, my breathing even, because this time, I wasn't asking permission. I was making an offer, and I wasn't the one about to lose everything. The COO leaned forward first. Not Connor. Not Chad. The COO. In careful, measured English, he asked, You no longer work with them? That question landed like a gavel. Everyone froze. Connor snapped out of it the fastest. His face went blotchy red. No, he's kidding. Daniel, sit down. I didn't move. The COO kept his eyes on me, waiting. I gave a small nod. Nothing dramatic, just acknowledgement. Connor panicked. You're fired, Daniel. Effective immediately. He said it fast, like he could shove the words between me and the client before anything stuck. But the COO heard him. Everyone did. I bowed slightly, directed at the client, not Connor, then straightened up. I'll leave my badge at the front desk, I said. And just so we're clear, you just fired the only person who knew what was happening with this contract. Connor sputtered something, but I didn't stay to hear it. I walked out, calm, steady. My heart hammered, but my face stayed cold. In the elevator, my phone buzzed. Unknown international number. I answered. The COO's deputy spoke, clipped and direct. Please confirm availability. Contract in progress. That was it. No fluff, I said, confirming. By the time I reached the parking garage, another email hit, draft retainer attached. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. 3 hours later, sitting at my tiny dining table with my personal laptop, I signed my first client as Eastbridge Integration, 15% of 38 million, retainer wired immediately. Then things got louder. The client's legal team sent a formal notice to the company I'd just walked out of. All renewal discussions to go through Daniel's consultancy, effective immediately. It was copied to every executive, including the board liaison. Within 15 minutes, my phone lit up with a Minneapolis number, Rachel from HR. She didn't even say hello. "They're freaking out," she said. "Connor's calling it a pivot." I laughed, a real one. "He fired me in front of the client. Good luck spinning that." Rachel lowered her voice. "They're asking about NDAs, your status, what you signed." "I asked for an updated NDA 6 months ago," I said. "Never got one." Silence. Then a long exhale. "That's not great for them. Not my problem anymore." I pulled into my driveway while she kept talking, but I barely heard her. I was watching the rain hit my windshield, each drop catching the light from the street lamp like a tiny spark. The kind of detail I never noticed when I was running on no sleep, saving other people's messes. "Daniel?" she asked. "Are you still there?" "I am," I said, "but not for them." I ended the call politely. Then I put my phone down, walked into my house, and sat at my kitchen table. My table, my laptop, my company. Emails kept rolling in. Client questions, draft scope, access requests, all directed to me, not the firm. Then came the one that sealed everything. "Please provide your consultancy's preferred process for red lines. We will no longer engage with the former team." I sent the process in 4 sentences. Clean, efficient, mine. Around 8 that night, while reviewing logistics pathways for the next quarter, another message came in from a junior analyst at the firm, someone I'd trained. It just said, "What did you do?" I stared at it for a moment, then typed back, "My job." I hit send. The rain finally stopped. The house felt quiet, steady. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel like pressure. It felt like room. 3 days later, I walked back into the same boardroom I'd been fired in. Connor was already seated, flanked by Chad, who looked like he was trying to disappear into his tablet. Connor greeted me like nothing had happened. Fake smile, loud voice, full performance. "Glad you could make it, Daniel," he said. "We've got updates from our side." I said nothing, just nodded, dropped my Eastbridge branded folder on the table, and waited. Connor started walking through a deck. His deck, not mine, full of buzzwords and fake polish. Chad added random side comments, clearly coached, and somehow still got the regional phrasing wrong. I let them talk. 15 minutes in, Chad tried translating a key delivery term to Japanese and butchered it. I watched the COO tilt his head, confused. That's when I spoke up. I corrected the phrase, directly, clearly, in perfect Japanese. No pause, no smile, just the right words and the right tone. Silence. Then the COO turned, looked directly at me, and said to the room, "Daniel leads now." Connor blinked like someone had unplugged him mid-sentence. He glanced at Chad, then back at the COO, but the meeting had already shifted. Everything came through me after that. Sales proposals, mine. Red lines on the contract, mine. Timeline negotiations, compliance summaries, even the language around customs declarations, all routed through Eastbridge Integration. The client trusted me to flag risk, and I did. First thing I did was highlight a hidden clause buried in Connor's new draft, one that could have triggered double VAT exposure in Japan and Germany. It was careless, dangerous, and if they'd signed it, it would have nuked the whole deal. I flagged it in red, translated the impact in both languages, and sent a revised version before the firm could blink. The client responded, "Please remove original draft from circulation. Proceed with Daniel's version." Connor tried to stay relevant. He kept sending synergy emails, copied half the company, full of vague alignment talk and empty bullet points. I replied with bulletproof legal notes, referenced by clause number and timestamp, in both English and Japanese. Then came the real hit. The client reduced the renewal scope, not by money, by involvement. They cut Connor's team out entirely. No sales oversight, no direct access. All contact, documentation, negotiation, through me. Next internal call, the COO didn't even look at Connor. He said, "Coordinate with Daniel from now on." That's when the cracks spread inside the firm. First, it was a quiet question from finance. Why are we locked out of client discussions? Then legal. Who authorized contract edits we never reviewed? Then the CFO got looped in. Then the board. Turns out, no one told them I'd been fired mid-contract. No one mentioned that the client had shifted loyalty. Not until legal showed them the letterhead on the retainer. East Bridge Integration. I wasn't trying to make a scene, but the mess they left behind was loud. All I did was speak clearly and stop protecting them from the sound. It was a routine quarterly audit. Compliance team digging through documentation, matching signatures, making sure the CYA trail was clean. They weren't looking for a scandal, but they found my name. Everywhere. Not in footnotes, not buried in metadata, front and center. Dozens of cultural summaries, contract addendums, clause translations, import-export briefs, conflict de-escalation write-ups that kept at least 4 deals from exploding mid-flight. Every one of them marked authored by Daniel Finch, not co-authored, authored. One board member, the quiet one, red tie, always typing, dropped the report on the conference table, right in front of Connor. "You fired the backbone to feel taller," he said. Connor laughed. That stupid little fake laugh he did when he didn't have a comeback. He tried to spin it, said I'd gone rogue, claimed my name being on, everything was a formatting error. Even threw out a half-baked line about how modern teams don't operate on individual credit. No one bought it. Legal had timestamps. HR had records. Compliance had clear authorship. They dug deeper. Found whole sections of the Japan account playbook traced directly to me. Shipping regulation briefings that Connor had passed off as team deliverables. Created on my account, in my language, weeks before Chad even started. The silence in that boardroom must have been brutal. Later that afternoon, I got a text from Rachel. Rachel, HR. Harold Denton wants to meet. Founder. Says it's overdue. Then a follow-up. No agenda, just lunch. My gut reaction? Suspicion. I thought it was a setup, an ambush, but the tone was off, calm, direct, no corporate dressing. Then the email came. From Harold Denton. Subject, just lunch. Daniel. I've been meaning to connect with you, not about fixing anything, just time we sat down. You good for Thursday? I replied within 10 minutes. Thursday works. I wore a plain button-down and my own damn name on a clean new card. No firm title, just Founder, East Bridge Integration. He picked a quiet place in St. Paul. No wine lists, no power tables. Just a corner booth, 2 menus, and no clock. He shook my hand like he meant it, sat down. Didn't even pull out a phone. First thing he said was, "Hell of a mess they made, huh?" I didn't reply right away. I waited. Then I said, "I tried to keep it clean." He nodded. "I know." For the next hour, we didn't talk strategy. We didn't talk clients. We talked about why I'd built the processes the way I had. Why context mattered more than translation. Why respect couldn't be dropped in last minute like a checklist item. He listened. Not the fake way, the real way. Like he was tallying every sentence. When the check came, he paid without hesitation. As we stood up, he said, "I'm not going to ask you to come back. That'd be selfish." "I wouldn't," I said. Not harsh, just honest. Didn't think so. We walked out together, no rush. Sun was bright that day, real sharp light. Cold air cutting through the last bits of late winter. I stepped outside, and something about it just hit different. I wasn't on the inside anymore. But for the first time in years, outside felt like mine. The final contract meeting was set for 9 sharp. I walked into that same boardroom. Different this time. My badge didn't scan because I didn't need one. The client COO walked beside me, briefcase in one hand, quiet and focused. His deputy followed. Nobody said much. We didn't need to. Connor was already seated when we arrived, leaning back, smug, like he still owned the room. Chad wasn't there. They must have figured out by now he wasn't safe near anything important. "Morning," Connor said, flashing a half smile. "Looking forward to putting this all to bed." I nodded but didn't answer. Just opened my folder, slid the final draft across the table. He grabbed it like he was about to grade it, then froze. Right there on page 1. Liaison firm. East Bridge Integration. He stiffened. "This isn't approved internally." Before I could answer, the client COO spoke, cool, professional. "You had your chance. Multiple chances. Connor looked around, confused. Wait, what does that mean? The door opened again. Harold Denton walked in without knocking. Didn't say good morning, didn't shake hands. Just gave a short nod to the COO, then sat down directly next to me. Just observing, he said. Connor sat up straight, his whole vibe shifting from smug to something between confused and nervous. I didn't look at him. I pulled out the appendix draft and kept walking the client through the red lines, clause by clause, line by line. At one point, Connor tried to interrupt, said something about scope creep and chain of command. The COO ignored him. Then Harold reached into his leather folder and placed another document on the table. It was thick, tabbed, signed. He looked straight at Connor. We've sold our interest in the vertical, he said. Connor blinked. To who? Harold didn't hesitate. To Daniel's firm. Connor's voice cracked. You can't. I did, Harold said. Because you let ego kill trust. Connor's face went chalk white. He leaned back like someone had pulled the floor out from under him. No one said a word. No one defended him. The COO stood slowly, looked at me, bowed, deliberate, respectful. Then he stepped forward and shook my hand first. Not Connor's, me. And he said, in English, we look forward to continuing this partnership with you. Connor never got up, didn't speak, didn't argue. He just sat there, breathing shallow, watching it all happen like he couldn't believe it was real. But it was. That contract, signed by lunch, my logo on every page, my terms, my oversight, and for the first time, the client didn't just feel like mine, they were. 2 weeks later, Connor was out. The board stripped him of every international account, quietly. No press release, no farewell email. Just gone from the global access list. Chad? Last I heard, he got reassigned to brand engagement. Translation, running the company's LinkedIn. Probably still sending sushi memes. Me? I took every meeting from my own office now. Real desk, real chair. My company's logo on the glass behind me, not someone else's. East Bridge Integration. The name hit different when people said it out loud. Clients poured in faster than I could schedule them. Not because I advertised, I didn't need to. Word spread. COO referred me to another firm in Osaka. They brought me into Seoul, then Singapore. Apparently, when you stop apologizing for other people's mess and just do the damn job right, people notice. I didn't gloat. I didn't throw shade online or post passive-aggressive nonsense. I just kept doing the work. Because I was never out to destroy the old firm. I didn't burn it down. I just stopped standing between them and the fire they lit. One morning, about a month later, I got an email from Harold. Short, no subject line. You built more than bridges. You built standards. Don't let them break. I printed it, framed it, hung it next to my whiteboard. People ask me sometimes, old coworkers, industry folks, do you miss the job? My answer's always the same. No, because I'm still doing the same thing I always did. I fix the mess. I keep deals alive. I make sure the work doesn't fall apart because someone wants to sound smarter than they are.